The wind moved through the endless grass of the Central Asian steppe, like waves across an infinite sea. Here there were no high walls, no great cities. But a power born here would soon change the fate of Asia. Chinese chronicles spoke of this people with fear. They called them Xiongnu. Today we know them by another name, the Huns. And at the center of this story stands a prince who would seize power by killing his own father. His name was Xiongnu, known in Turkish history as Mete Han. In the 3rd century before Christ, the Han tribes were ruled by his father, a ruler named Teoman. In Chinese sources, he appears as Tuman Chanyu. He struggled to keep the Han tribes united within the harsh balance of steppe politics. But inside the royal court, another power was rising. Teoman's Chinese wife. In Chinese chronicles, her name appears as Yan Shi. She gave birth to a son, a new candidate for the throne. And in that moment, the crown prince Mete Han became the greatest obstacle. The Chinese historian Sima Qian, in his famous chronicle Shiji, describes Mete's life in detail. According to these records, Mete Han was eventually sent as a hostage to the Yuezhi, a powerful nomadic people of the East. Officially, it was a diplomatic decision, but some historians believe there may have been another reason. Perhaps this decision was not entirely Teoman's. Perhaps it was the result of growing pressure inside the royal court. A path opened for Yan Shi's son. Only one thing was certain. The crown prince was now in enemy territory. Hostage exchanges were not unusual in steppe diplomacy. They were meant to ensure trust. But soon Teoman did something unexpected. He gathered the Han army and launched an attack against the Yuezhi. During such an attack, the expected outcome was simple. The hostages would be killed. If Mete Han died, the path to the throne would be clear. But the plan failed. Mete Han found an opportunity. He stole a horse, and in the darkness of night, he rode into the steppe. Enemy riders followed behind him. But Mete Han knew the steppe. He knew the direction of the wind, the path of the stars, and the silent language of the grasslands. At last he returned to Han territory. When Teoman saw his son standing before him, he could barely hide his shock. He had expected him to die, but now it was too late. The crown prince was alive. Killing him openly could create a major crisis among the tribes. So Teoman chose another path. He gave Mete Han command of 10,000 cavalry. It was not a reward, it was a balance. The prince had to remain powerful, but also under watch. During his days in captivity, Mete Han had thought constantly about war. One of the greatest problems in steppe warfare was command. In the noise of battle orders were often lost. So he created a new kind of arrow, an arrow that made a sharp sound as it flew through the air. A whistling arrow. This arrow would become a signal. Wherever it flew, every arrow in the army would follow. Mete Han gave his soldiers one rule. Wherever I shoot my arrow, you will shoot as well. And whoever hesitates will die. The first test was his favorite horse. Some soldiers hesitated. All of them were executed. The second test was even more shocking. The target was one of Mete Han's favorite wives. Again, some men hesitated. They were executed too. Now in Mete Han army, there was only one rule. When the order came, there were no questions. One day during a hunt, Mete Han raised his bow. This time, the target was Teoman. The whistling arrow cut through the air. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then, thousands of arrows followed it. The ruler of the Huns was killed by his own army. In the year 209 before Christ, Mete Han ascended the Han throne. But his true legacy was not only how he seized power, he reorganized the Han army. He created a decimal military system. 10 soldiers formed a unit. 100 soldiers, 1,000 soldiers, 10,000 soldiers, each level with its own commander. Thanks to this system, the Han army became one of the first highly disciplined and organized steppe armies in history. This model would later appear again in the armies of the Turks, the Mongols, and even in some structures of modern military organization. Mete Han was not only a ruler, he united the scattered tribes of the steppe into a single state, and the power of the Huns soon became one of the greatest political forces in Central Asia. For the Chinese Empire, a new reality had appeared on its northern frontier, a power rising from the steppe, and its founder, Mete Han. History sometimes changes direction because of the decisions of a single man, and in the year 209 before Christ, such a decision was made on the steppe